So without further ado, I would like to introduce our amazing guest, Joy Huggins, who is the founder of Defenders Academy and Hack Joyously. Tonight, Joy is going to talk to us about, her experience in the tech industry, more specifically the cybersecurity field and the work that she's doing in the Baltimore area around trying to, educate our next generation of leaders in the cybersecurity field. So Joy, before we get started, is there something that you would like to say to the crowd today?
I just come engaged and ready to ask questions. I'm gonna be brief, and I do best with Q&A. If there's anything particular that you would like to know, I'm here for you, and I'm here to answer your questions. Let me fix my hair, Marcus. You tell me I look crazy. Hold on, yeah. But yeah, so that's essentially that's essentially how I roll. So nothing too crazy. I'm good.
Okay. So just to start off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from?
The long version or the short version? No worries. Obviously my name is Joy Huggins. I am originally from Chicago, Illinois. Grew up in the suburbs surrounding Chicago. And I was a foster kid. From being a foster kid, I never was adopted. From 9 months to 21 years old, I took advantage of ETV. I took advantage of all the programs that paid me to go to school. So after taking advantage of those programs, I decided that the military would be the best route to go because they would pay for more things. Growing up in foster care, you develop a very transactional mindset of what benefits you, what gets you to the next level, and what it is that you need to do to get there. At least I did. That's what I learned from care. And I took that mindset into the military. Got my associate's, first bachelor's, and master's while I was in active duty, 11 years. Got out, got a second. I'm working on my second bachelor's in deaf studies. And then I also started my own business while I was in the military because I was doing a lot of double dipping. I was working military, but I was also doing contract work and getting my feet wet, learning about the industry, learning the do's and don'ts, what I like, what I didn't like. And in the wake of that, I realized that there isn't a streamlined path as to how to get anybody into this industry, because a lot of it was about who you knew. Like if you were a CAD programmer, then you would know some guy that was working on satellites at NASA. Then you were doing all these crazy things. You got to do all the cool things because you knew somebody that knew somebody that knew somebody. I mean, even Mattel was in on getting in some good stuff. And there's some things that have been declassified. And if you ever get a chance, read about Mattel. Yes, those are the people who made Barbie. They were into a lot of top secret squirrel cybersecurity things before it was cybersecurity. That's eventually the quick of it. How did I get into cybersecurity? JP Morgan Chase actually bought out the bank that I got in trouble with. That was Harris Bank in Chicago, Illinois. It was me and a few other friends. We were able to splice Ethernet lines that went to ATMs, and we were able to modify numbers within the bank. Little did we know, we were modifying people's money in their bank accounts. I served juvie. I served in juvie. They got hired by some of the big threes, but it was okay. I think I turned out fine. But I mean, outside of that, it was pretty great. That was my introduction, and I just never stopped that curiosity. And it wasn't a desire to be the most smartest in the room, but the most innovative. So I just started working on that and, mastering the ability to be innovative. So
when exactly, if you recall, when exactly did you become interested in tech? Did it just happen, or was it an experience that?
So my grandmother worked at Zenith, which was, if you are into old timey devices, they were one of the first companies that came out with 8-track players, blue discs before they were Blu-rays, VCRs, TVs, even the big boxy TVs. I think they eventually were bought out by RCA and some other things. But my grandma she was a programmer. She just took secretarial work as a programmer for Zenith. And she would bring home new devices, IBM devices, things like that. And I broke them, and I had, by the time she got home, to fix them. So, and it just never left.
Okay, so as I mentioned
And,
briefly in the intro, you're the founder of Defender Academy and Hack Joyously. Can you tell us a little bit about what Defender Academy is? What's the goal, and what are you looking to take this business from?
So Defender Academy is a training institution catered towards middle and high schoolers and teaching them the fundamentals of cybersecurity through hands-on activities. Most specifically, kids in more urban environments and kids in more rural environments. The idea is to expose them to the opportunities and a lifestyle that they may have never thought was possible for themselves. Hack Joyously essentially takes women and minorities or marginalized groups in cybersecurity and basically talk them up to confidence, reassure them in some of the skill sets that they already have, and tell them like, hey, you got this, right? So basically, it's kind of like a confidence coach for people who are struggling to move ahead in their careers, whether it's them being in their own way or whether it's them feeling like there's the powers that be. And how do you take control of what you think you're losing control of?
Would you say cybersecurity is a difficult field to get into, essentially?
No,
No.
absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. Cybersecurity is as difficult as any job to get into. This is my first career. I eventually, after doing my confidence coach thing, I eventually want to get back into gaming because I was a crazy gamer. I was making leaderboards when I was in college, skipping all the classes, 30, 40 hours a day, because we only have 24-hour days. But I was really into gaming, and I do plan on getting back to that. But cybersecurity, I really do feel like, just like anything, if you want it, you'll get it. Like there's nothing stopping you from getting it nowadays. It's honestly, and I say this to my high school students all the time, it's the freest money you'll ever make in your life. You just have to know how to write to the position description and show the passion you want to be there.
I see.
At least to get into the door.
What kind of skills do you think a person should display if they're trying to get into that field?
Regardless of what community you're coming from, one, have a tenacious attitude, be a problem solver, right? And most importantly, be able to think outside the box. Now, apply that at will and how you want to, because I look at a math problem and I don't look at it the same way the average bear does, right? I those are the three things that I would say. If you want to get into cybersecurity, that's what you need to do.
I see.
Have those two things.
Joyce, being a Black woman in tech, more specifically,
Mhm.
how do you think that has affected your experience in tech, if it has at all?
That goes without saying. Like I can honestly say without the movements the social movements that have been happening, now would be the best time if you are a minority female specifically to try to get into this field. Because my experiences before was not only were men trying to I had a lot of cis men of all races try to downplay my intellect. There is a lot of that. It doesn't matter what I wear, what I walk into a room, just having melanin is a threat. It's it for whatever reason. Some people play on she's only here because of her melanin or to fit diversity numbers or whatever the case may be, and then I get to work, right? And then they're like, oh, okay, well maybe she deserves a seat at the table, right? But it has affected it a lot. I would be lying if I said it didn't. I have lost jobs because of my confidence. I have lost jobs because of not fitting a stereotype and people wanted me to be a certain type of way. you know, like I said, I would be lying if I said racism, sexism doesn't run rampant in this community, but it does a lot. But I feel like that's with any STEM field, right? Um, and that's unfortunate, but it's a thing.
How do you navigate that environment when you feel as though you are being, picked on because of your race or being a woman in tech? Does it give you more confidence and make you want to work harder, or does it, uh, you know, hinder your confidence?
Let me tell you something. That's a really great question. And I'm going to answer this question like I've answered it to my high school students. Real job security is knowing that you can always get a job, period. And what does that mean? That means I am confident in my skill set and my ability to sell my skill set, that if I get on a job and within 2 weeks, I'm not seeing what I need to see, have a great day. Or
Mhm.
if I get on a job and the environment is toxic and the project isn't intriguing enough for me, have a great day. This field is looking for people of my expertise, my demographic, and not just being the part, but knowing the part. There aren't too many people out there that can speak to the skill, and I can do that. And so I would say to anybody, learn your craft well enough to where you're needed, and you will never be in a position where you feel stuck. And that's not just cybersecurity, that's life. Like, always have a skill set where people will eventually be calling you back with their legs between their legs, with their tails between their legs, because they need you.
Mhm.
So now I don't have that problem.
That's
I don't I
amazing.
don't I don't have a problem of navigating those issues. And it's weird because even in the beginning, I used my life as a motivator for me. I came from 9 months in foster care to being a very decorated service member, doing the commissioning, being a senior government worker. So whenever I go and I apply and I get into places that make me feel like they don't want me there, you don't need me here.
Mhm.
So I guess that's how I navigate it, right? I draw on my experience, where I came from, who I am, and what I'm trying to do, because I don't allow anybody to deter me from the goals I set for myself and my family and my future.
So motivational. Beautiful. I want to take a few steps back to talk about your role in the military. Can you tell us a little bit about like the work you were doing in the military? I know you kind of touched on it.
So it started out in Intel, and then it went to support forces, support for special forces. And then it went administrative once I got injured, and then cybersecurity. Although my job title was different, I always did cybersecurity. It just didn't have that hot button name at the time when I joined.
I see.
So,
Okay. So okay, going back forward, what do you
sure.
think that diversity is important in tech, and if so, why?
I mean, diversity is important no matter, okay, we're talking about tech, but yes, diversity is extremely important. And it's important because change is good, right?
Mhm.
If you have a specific set of individuals working on process improvement, then at some point things become redundant, right? You get stagnated, and the ability to move forward just doesn't happen. So diversity is the key to pushing things forward. Like, even if it's not a people thing, because you look at some of the greatest world powers in the world, like China, Japan, even the US, you look at some of our leadership models, a lot of their ideas and how they move forward come from those marginalized groups. And somebody who is a representative of those marginalized groups that match the face of the organization usually drive those ideas forward. So although they're not the people driving the ideas, they're getting the ideas from the people in the background. So
Right, right.
yeah.
how do you think we can anchor young, diverse individuals interested in careers in tech? Because a lot of the work that we're doing at Center State is trying to get, young people from diverse backgrounds to, break into the tech industry and you get these great jobs and work in cybersecurity. But sometimes there's a lack of interest, or there may be a misconception that there's a lack of interest, but there's also lack of opportunities and barriers to entry. So how do you think we can, get more people involved in tech?
You want the politically correct answer, or you want
I
the
want
Joy
the
Huggins
Joy
answer?
Huggins answer.
Stop getting boring people in your classrooms. Because I guarantee you, 95% of the people you have walking into those classrooms are demanding respect rather than giving it. And I know that because I've had those people be my instructors. I've had those people try to teach me things. I've had those people try to mentor me and give me advice. And they were not for me. Um, the reason I have success in my program is because these kids come at me. One, they look at me and they're like, "How old are you, 12?" And I'm like, "Thanks for the compliment, because black don't cray, what I'm saying? I got a little melanin, But not only that is that they're able to talk to me like I'm their sister, or I am someone that they still have a hard time believing I am who I am. And then I start pulling up the labs and I'm like, okay, today we're going to work on developing a mini script in PowerShell that is going to do X, Y, and Z. Or I'll say, hey, today we're going to take a code, we're taking Python code and we're going to go by line and see exactly what's happening as we execute, blah, 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 blah. And then they're like, oh, we really finna learn something today. I'm like, yeah, well, y'all thought we was just gonna talk about some anime because I know I like anime, but that's not all we doing today. Y'all tried it, you feel me? So it's a mix, right? It's having someone that's engaging, but most importantly, someone that's relatable.
Yeah.
Like, I'm ADOS. And if you're not familiar with the term, I'm an African descendant of slaves, right? I'm an African American descendant of slaves, which is not the same thing as someone that's from Africa. Because the people are from Africa, their standards from their youth, from their peers, from it's just not where we are in America. And I would say I am proud to say that I have something to look forward to, something that's respectable that comes from a community of melanin, right? You look at the people from the islands, you look at the people from Africa, you look at all Blacks that aren't from America and what they bring to America. It can be very intimidating. It really can. But it's also necessary because it's like, wait, we can do it though. I mean, they doing it. Why we can't do it? And I will have to tell you, I had when I went to Catholic school, I had a nun. She was from Senegal. She was Senegalese. She would cuss me out every day. She didn't understand why I didn't understand, the ways. You're black. You're smart. What are you doing? Right? I was like, oh, okay. I don't know. I had a Jamaican. She would cuss me out about my hair all the time. She would try to uplift me and build me. The women from the Caribbean, they just different altogether. But it's important to understand the distinction between ADOS and Black from other countries, because you get a bunch of urban kids that grew up in Chicago, New York, Detroit. They're gonna look at this guy and be like, oh, they come from the Black affluence of the other countries. Like, they don't understand what it feels like to be me, right? To be marginalized my whole life, to not come from a community of people that expect the best of me. So it's kind of like we go through this, we look at our students and we look at, okay, boom, it's time to learn. Boom, it's time to, why don't you get this? You need to get this. You need to understand this. But they don't come from a culture like that. They don't come, we don't come from a culture of excellence, right? We come from a culture where the community expects us to be paid to pay us for our silence, right? So it's a whole different thing when you talk about, oh, how can we motivate the kids? What type of kids you got? Do you got first generation American kids, or do you have kids that are, that's coming from situations, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
their mentality and how they approach their learning is already going to be different. You've got broken education systems. You've got not every kid in your class can read. You have people in there who may be able to read, but their critical thinking is like, but like, wait, if I have 5 apples, sis, if I have 5 apples and I give you 3, right? How many apples do I have? And she say something like 7.
Mhm.
That's not just the math. It's not being able to visualize these apples that I just gave to you and I no longer have, right? Like that's a critical thinking piece. Being able to materialize what you're working with in your brain, that's not a skill that a lot of us have coming from situations.
Right.
And so I challenge you. I would say I challenge you in your program, because this is what Defender Academy does. I challenge you to learn where your students are coming from, meet them where they are, and it is your responsibility to bring them up. Right? It's your responsibility to bring them up. If you want them to be a part of this community, you want them to be engaged, be relatable. Be someone that they can say, that they feel comfortable enough to say, Mr. Webb was, he was talking about, scripting in video games. Like, what was that program he was talking about? And they don't feel dumb when they come to class and they say, hey, Mr. Webb, you was talking about that gaming program that, they're using for, that Bethesda Studios is using for Halo or Gears of War. Do you remember what that was? A lot of times when you get foreign instructors or you get people with all these high standards, they be like, why weren't you paying attention in class? I gave you this information already. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a very different experience when you have someone that comes from where you are, right?
Right.
And I teach that to some of my peer instructors, when they're like, how are you so successful with your kids? I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I just know that they come to me, and I don't cut them when
Right.
they don't know,
Right.
right? But that's on the teaching stuff. That's because urban ed, there's some universities that call me to come and do some urban ed stuff, but that's a whole different just a whole different, there's a whole different talk. There's a whole different TED talk. You feel me? But no, I would say I challenge you in your organization. Get somebody that's relatable. Get somebody that's relatable. Have somebody that comes in there and is not just ready to teach, but ready to mentor. Because when you talk about marginalized groups or kids that come from urban and rural environments, they gotta get rid of the distractions outside of your classroom just to be able to learn.
Right.
And if you are not a safe space, they're never gonna learn in your classroom.
Great advice.
Period. Yeah.
One last question, then we'll open up the floor for Q&A. So what
Sure.
advice, you kind of just gave a lot of advice, but you can sum it up. What advice would you have for others looking to set off in like a similar path as you?
That's a broad question, my guy.
The short
What
version.
type of advice would I give for somebody coming through my path? Ooh, stick to it.
Stick to it.
Stick to it. Like, if you want it, stick to it. Like, it's worth it in the end. Like, it's like, one, because pain before beauty is one of the oldest mantras that's out there, right? But it's legit a thing. I can't tell you how many times I've cried. I can't tell you how many times I wanted to quit. I can't tell you how many bus stops when I was homeless. I can't tell you how many buses I wish took me to a different place that was not where I was at. I can't tell you how many times when I was in the military and I was stuck in a situation that challenged me emotionally, physically, mentally. I can't tell you how many times I wanted to break, and sometimes I did. And that's okay. Be okay with breaking. Be okay with sitting in the suck, but don't quit. But don't quit. Um, if that relationship is worth it, if that job is worth it, if that environment is worth it, if it's worth it to you, if it meets 3 out of 5 of your, this is what makes me happy, you know, because compromise is a thing you have to be willing to do. Don't quit. It's okay to be broken. It's okay to hurt. It's okay to feel alone. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel like there's nobody else out there that understands you. It's okay. But don't sit there too long. Get up. Wipe off your boots, get up, go wash your face, go take a bath, sis, because you smell funny, go get your hair done. It's okay. It's okay. But don't sit there. Don't sit there.
Great advice. Thank you, Joy. So we're going to open up the floor now for Q&A with the speaker. We have 2 questions from Aaron in the chat. The question is, with Defender Academy and Hack Joyously initiative alive and well, are there new projects that you're developing that you hope will see soon?
One more time. One more time.
With the Defender Academy and Hack Joyously initiatives alive and well, are there new projects that you are developing that you hope will take shape soon? That question is from Aaron Smith.
Aaron Smith, my guy, I wish there was a way I could. I haven't figured out a way to scale myself. I would like to see both of these programs take off, but I really need to develop a team to help me scale the mission and to scale what I'm able to do and teach it to other people. So of all the projects that I need to do, I really, that's going on with Defender Academy and Hack Joyously, I feel like those 2 things, scaling what I'm able to do, and getting it in the hands of people who want to do and make that change.
Another question from Aaron was, what is your favorite aspect of the cybersecurity field?
Ooh, the diversity of projects. Let me tell you, from ICS to car hacking to video game development to finance to healthcare. There's so many things I need to master, and there's just not enough time. It's just not enough time. But I mean, the fundamentals are the same, right? The fundamentals are the same. You guys froze again, but don't worry about it. I'm not leaving. The fundamentals are the same. It's just so many different things, right? I have a friend that was working on a project on the Internet of Things, IoT, and he was working on ovens, like hacking into ovens and the dangers of hacking into ovens, or those ovens that hook up to gas lines, and how that can just be a whole crazy scene if you are like a hacker for a gangster and you want to do crazy things to people. But I mean, the fact that I can burn up your cookies on purpose, that's pretty intimidating to me. So I don't know.
We have a question from Tim Brown. How do you stay safe on the internet / in the world with everything being connected to Wi-Fi?
So, oh man. The technical answer would be to harden your systems, install VPNs, get on those non-tracking browsers like Brave, Spot, a few other things. My answer is that as long as you use the internet, you're not safe. You will never be safe. Herd immunity is a thing. There will eventually be enough viruses and malware out there that if it does touch you, something's already protecting you. I would say go off grid, because as the world grows, again, this is me, my personal opinion, nothing, go off grid, because it's just going to get more interconnected. I mean, there's just no, yeah. So hopefully that answers your question. I know it was a downer, Tim. It was a downer. I didn't mean for it to be a downer, but that's just the answer. So
All right. We have another question from Aaron. How can we keep in touch and follow your work/programs?
Social media that I don't update. So between social media and really LinkedIn, I usually post what's already been done, but projects that I'm working on, I try not to expose too much of that because there are a lot of big people already out there who've tried to reach out and want to buy me, but not lift my company. So I try to be careful with the content that I put out there, what I'm working on. I'm just not enough to manage the legal liability of the projects that I put out there. So you can follow my completed projects on social media.
Okay, so theoretically, you can hack into things that aren't necessarily technologically capable, or did I misread what you said about the gas run stove/oven?
Um, that's cute. So any question, so any item purchased after 2015 is hackable. There aren't any devices that aren't being sold that don't have network identification cards, right? Or that don't have an IP address, right? So I would challenge you and ask you, find me a device made in 2015 that doesn't have internet capabilities, and that thing can't be hacked. Anything with an IP address can be hacked.
I'd love to hear about your day-to-day at work or any past project you could share details about.
So day to day, okay, so I come into work. It's really actually quite boring. Like I'm not even gonna do that. So if I talk about my day, it's boring. But talk about what I completed would probably be better. But you guys don't have the need to know for a lot of things that I did work on. So what I will say is that wake up, take your life caffeine, and get ready to go to work. Love what you do passionately, and yeah, that's all. That's all I can give you. I'm sorry. I'm working on getting in the public sector. Really, truly, I am. But you know, their standards are a little higher than everybody else's. So than the government's. So I gotta get on that. Or whatever. Sorry.
I'm going to come off mute because my typing isn't that fast. So Joy, do you ever feel paranoid, cynical, like the world's a bad place because you're focused on all the bad things that can happen through hacking and infiltration of our systems?
No, I find peace in the chaos because one, that's job security for me, right? And two, it's not a matter of if, but when. And if you're always, I feel like if I was in the mentality of, oh no, what's going to happen, right? Then I would not be able to live because there's, again, as I answered the question before from Mr. Brown, like you if you're in era today, go off grid. That's the only way. That's the only way you'll have a peace of mind because you'll have all the control then. But as long as you use the internet, somebody else always has that control. And I don't have that. I've found peace with that because I like the conveniences of technology and the things that it does for me. So I'd be lying if I said I didn't. I have an electric car. I have a home system that may or may not be connected to the internet. You know, I mean, I live like, you know, a normal person would. And there are a lot of people who work in my field of business after their 30 years, they go work on the farms and they go off grid because we have seen and we know what our government and what people of foreign governments are capable of. So will I ever go off grid? Probably not, because in my past time, I adopt, I foster. So I would always have kids in my care. You know, I'll always be a sitting duck, I guess is the way to put that. So
Well, it sounds like you found some good balance in your thought process, which sounds like would be an important consideration for people in this field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you don't find out and learn the things that we do and stick around if your family's not first. I mean, the field is not only lucrative or secure, it just teaches you a bunch of things about people. And if you've never been in psychology, you learn about the psychology of the people inherently because your job requires you to ask a lot of why questions. Now, why would he do this? Or why would she do this? Or why would they? Why? And then you incidentally start learning a lot about psychology. You start learning a lot about people, and you're like, yeah, I don't like people. So I'm gonna just do this for my family. So it is a healthy balance, and you gotta, at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you and your fam.
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this question, but I'm gonna ask anyway.
Uh-huh.
So as a cybersecurity specialist, and not just you, but individuals who are in that field, do they have, and this may be ignorant as well, do they have the capability to hack into like people that they know personal information? And if so, do you think that capability causes them to like have difficulties in relationships and stuff like that?
Oh man. So no true hacker compromises the integrity of their personal relationships because we understand the legal consequences in doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that it's like a code of honor amongst like real hackers, and I say real because you got a lot of people out there that are perpetrating a certain thing, and then they go and they do things like maybe compromise a boyfriend's cell phone, or they'll go and do the basics that they know to get into a webcam of their ex-wife, right, see what she got going on with the new baby daddy or whatever the case may be. Real hackers hold on to a code of honor where if our mental health is compromised, we avoid any opportunity to interact with that relationship. Now there's a lot of people that's new. That's the newer. I will have to say that's millennial / Gen Z hackers, because before us they would sell each other's information. They were pretty catty with each other, and these are men, right? Most of them were men selling information. Try to get over on the next guy. But even if you go to certain hacker conferences like DEF CON and Black Hat, there's, Mental Health Village. There's a bunch of resources in place so that you would never have to, if you utilize the resources given to you, you would never have to even go down that road, because it's a bad and it's a dangerous and it's a non-safe one.
Okay.
So.
Tim, I see you raised your hand. You have another question?
Yeah, I was going to type this, but I couldn't find a way to phrase it that sounded appropriate. But I wanted to ask, in your field of work, how important is government clearance? I know that I'm going to have a difficult time getting it because I'm a foreign national. But yeah, I was just wondering.
I would say if you have a skill set and the government wants you, it won't be very hard for you at all. But clearances, depending on which route you want to go, clearances are important, right? There are plenty of private sector jobs out there with big name companies: Google, IBM, Hewlett Packard, Procter Gamble, Johnson Johnson, Amazon. There's plenty of private companies out there that put a lot of money into their work, their cybersecurity workforce, that you a public trust maybe. But when you start speaking to go in government, then obviously it's super important. So I guess choose a path, pick your poison, and then that'll be able to answer your question better.
Okay, thank you.
We have time for a couple more questions if anyone has one. Okay, so we have a question from Manu. What sort of technology should someone wanting to get into security get familiar with?
Manu, this question you asking me sounds real personal. And now I say that because when you speak on technologies, love, what do you want to do? Do you want to do car hacking? Then I would suggest you get with a university research team. If you're in Maryland, Indiana, Utah, Nebraska, Florida, New York, there are a bunch of research programs. I guess you guys are in New York, that do a lot of car hacking stuff. If you want to work in hospital Bluetooth hacking technology, get affiliated with Bluetooth technologies. It really depends on what you want to do. That's a very broad question, but because I have the experience in so many different things, that's the best way I can answer it for you. If I had only worked in ICS or industrial control systems, I would tell you, okay, well, you need to learn about the protocols in the TCP protocols within industrial control systems, learn the proprietary ones between Honeywell, Siemens, and a bunch of big other names, but Honeywell and Siemens are pretty much your top two that you're going to run into when you talk about industrial control systems. Then I tell you to learn about the protocols within automotive technology. Then I would tell you to learn about TCP tech, just TCP UDP for regular IP communications, IoT, all the things, they all run on their own type of communications. So it's a really super personal question as to what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And then throw that question back in there. Then maybe I can give you some better direction.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, is there any general stuff that, I should have some sense of if I wanted to learn more about security? Or just like overall
I would just say,
familiarity.
and I know they hit you with this all the time. Let me see. If you don't mind, please don't take this personally. I'll give this to you like my high school students, right? You want to learn about cybersecurity. First, identify what about security you want to learn, right? What field? But the basics will always be learn about your hardware and how they communicate to the internet. So that would be like learn about your hardware and then learn about your networking. And then everything else will fall in place. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Hardware, and then how does it touch the internet? Whatever it is you want to do. Again, whether it's IoT, cars, healthcare devices, industrial control systems, learn about the hardware and learn about how it touches the internet.
So I would like to say thank you to everyone who attended this event, asked questions. Thank you, Joy, for dropping a lot of knowledge on us, giving a lot of great advice. You did an amazing job. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach out to us at generationnext@centerstateceo.com. If you were looking for any resources or upcoming events, you can visit our webpage at centerstateceo.com/events. And engage with us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So again, thank you for attending the Technical Culture Speaker Series. Joy, thank you so much for your participation, and everyone have a great evening.